Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial in C++ for Complete Beginners, we're going to take a look at adding data to our classes. So we saw how to create a simple class in the last tutorial, and probably if you're following these tutorials through, probably at this point you're not really still completely certain what a class is or what it's for, but that's all right. We're going to look at another thing you can do with classes in this tutorial. And as you keep practicing this and looking at these tutorials, it will hopefully gradually become clear. So I created this cat class in the last tutorial, and I'm going to recreate this in this tutorial or something similar, but using a bit of a quicker way of doing it. I'm going to use the built-in facilities of my IDE to generate a class, and all good IDEs will enable you to do that. So let's create a new project. I'll go to New C++ Project, and I'm going to call this, well, I'm going to select the Hello World C++ basic project, and let's call it Data Members or something along those lines, and I'll click Finish. And let's just build it and make sure it does work. Occasionally in Eclipse, particularly with Java, I find that the basic project doesn't work for some reason and you just need to regenerate it, so it's worth checking that it does work before you go on. I'm going to right click this, I'm going to go to New, Other, and in this C++ section here I'm going to select Class. Let's click Next. Let's call this class Cat, so where it says class name I'll type Cat. I'm not going to have a namespace here, so I'll untick namespace. We haven't looked at those yet. And you can see that this is going to generate for us cat.h and cat.cpp. It also wants to generate constructors and destructors, and we haven't looked at those yet either. So let's just untick those for the moment because we don't need them, and I'll click Finish. And what we get is we get this cat.h with a kind of stub of a class in it, and the usual sort of if not def, define, endif stuff. And we've got cat.cpp, which includes cat.h, so that saved us quite a lot of work. Let's give cat a function, as we did in the last tutorial. And at this point I want to mention that subroutines, when they're kind of freestanding subroutines, as we saw earlier in these tutorials, they're often called functions in C++, but when they're part of a class, they are often called methods for some reason. It's a bit of a strange name. So I'm going to refer to subroutines that are part of a class from now on as methods. Let's type public here and a colon, and underneath that let's have void speak round brackets semicolon. So that's kind of like the prototype, well, it is the prototype of the function. And we'll go to cat.cpp and we'll type void cat, that's the name of the class, 2 colons, speak, and it's actually the autocomplete is coming up to help me here, so I'll just hit return on that, and then we'll open a curly bracket, and Eclipse has put the closing one in automatically when I hit return. And let's do cout and meow and endler, and again we'll use that in our main sort of program. So I'll go to main here, and let's say cat, we'll call it, let's call it Jim. I feel like calling this cat Jim. So we've declared a variable of the type cat, which I've called Jim, and now we can say Jim.speak. We can call this method, speak method of this particular cat, Jim. So I'll run that to check it works, and it doesn't work. So I've done something wrong. Let's just take a look. What did I do? I think I've screwed up my cout. So yes, one thing I forgot to do was to include iostream.h, so let's do that in this cat.cpp file. I'll put it at the top because usually you put the standard includes above the kind of custom ones. Let's type here include, and the angle brackets as usual, iostream. And we also have to put underneath these includes using name space standard std semicolon. Now I'll build it again, and this should work hopefully. Okay, so now if I run it, we've still got errors. Okay, let's not run it then. And if we go to the top of the errors here, what's it say? It says cat.gym. Yes, I also forgot in datamembers.cpp, I forgot to include cat.h. So let's put that underneath this iostream in datamembers.cpp in the main kind of file. Let's put hash include and double quotes cat.h. Okay, now I'm pretty confident that it will work. Let's run it after saving everything, and now it says meow. So if we go back to cat.h here, we've got a method here, we've got a function, a subroutine that's part of the class. I'm going to go above that here, and in fact, yeah, for the moment I'm going to put this after the kind of public keyword here. So above my prototype of my method, but below public, I'm going to type here a variable. I'm going to define a variable. Let's make this bool happy. Now what I can do with that is I can give it a value. Let's set it equal here to false. So we've defined this variable as part of our class. We call it we can call it various things, like for example a data member, because it's a bit of data and it's a member of this class. And we'll now go to cat.cpp to our speak method, and in here I'm going to use an if. Let's say if happy, and you'll notice that I don't have to do anything special to refer to happy, because I've defined it within the actual class. I can now use it down here in any methods that belong to the class. Let's say if happy, then we're going to say cout meow else, and I need my curly brackets, cout. So if the cat's not happy, let's say let's make a sort of threatening cat noise. So the idea here is that we're creating a class which is a data and methods bundled together. That's what a class is, or it defines a template for an object, for a specific individual cats in this case, and each cat will have its own separate versions of this data. So we could have some cats that are happy, some that are false. Whenever some that are not happy, whenever we create a cat like this, it can have its own state represented by the data. So let's try this now and see what it does. I'll just check that this looks good to me. Let's run this. So because it's not happy, it says, but if we go to cat.h and we set happy to true, and run that, we're going to get meow. And we have got a warning here, and that's going to tell me, well, I'm not going to worry about that for the moment. Let's just not worry about that. In-class initialization and non-static data member. What I've done here is it's a bit unusual, but we haven't quite seen enough to deal with this in a better way for the moment. So I'm just going to keep on doing that just for the moment, and we'll see how to get rid of that warning in a future tutorial soon. One thing that I want to show you, actually, another thing, is that if we go to datamembers.cpp here, I can change the value of happy. So I can say Jim, and just as with accessing a subroutine, calling a subroutine that's part of this cat object defined in the cat class, I can also use the dot here to access happy. Let's set happy to, well, here here I've set it to true when I actually declared it. Let's set it to false and see what that does. So now we've created the cat, and initially it was happy, but now I've set happy to false, and now when we run the subroutine we should see s and not meow. Let's try that. So we see s. Now one of the ideas behind object-oriented programming, that's this programming style where we deal with objects and classes, is that you create methods like speak, and you document those methods so people can know what public methods are available to the users of that class, even if it's yourself. But as for the data, you want to hide that away. You want to prevent people from being able to change the data. And the reason for that is that if the data's hidden, you can completely re-implement the class. You could have different data variables in there. You could change the way it works. But as long as the class still has the same publicly documented methods, it's still going to work the same. So we want to stop anything changing happy here that's outside of the class, that's outside of either of these two files, cat.cpp and cat.h. We want to hide it away. And data hiding is one of the key ideas behind object-oriented programming. Hide away the guts of the class, hide away the data, only have certain methods that are publicly documented. And then, because the user shouldn't really know anything about how this class works, they should just be able to use it through its methods. So to achieve that, up here, I'm going to type private : and I'm going to move happy here into this private section. Let's just, I'll have a blank line just here between the private and public sections here. I'm trying to just make it look a bit pretty so it's visually easy to read. And let's see what happens now. So I'm going to go to datamembers.cpp. I'm going to go to my main function, and I'm going to go to project, build project. And now we find we've got an error. It won't let me access happy anymore outside of the class. So if let's actually delete that, because it doesn't work anymore, because now happy is private, can only be used within the class. And in fact, what I'll do, I think, is because this warning is unsightly, I'm just going to get rid of setting it equal to true here. And for the moment, I'm just going to set it happy to true, or false. Let's say happy equals true, actually in the subroutine speak. I'm sort of a bit concerned that it may be that some compilers won't even let you do that. They won't allow you to assign a value to a data member like this in the way that I just showed you. I think they all will, but I'm not completely sure. So I'd better show you another way of doing it down here. I'm not completely sure that all compilers will let you assign a value like that when you actually declare it, although I think they probably will. Let's just run this and check that it still works. So again, we've got meow, so we can access happy, no problem, within this method because it's part of the class. So that's it for this tutorial. And to practice this, define a class, anything you like. It can represent anything in the real world or some sort of programming type thing if you want. And try giving it some data members. You can give it more than one of different types, and you'll see that you can set them and access them within your methods. So try to access it in one of your methods. Try to set it to something somewhere. Try setting it in your header file where you actually declare it, like I did earlier, and see if that gives you a warning or an error with your IDE. I suspect it will only be a warning. I suspect your program will still run if you assign a value here. And try that with 2 or 3 different types of data members and check that you can access them within your methods. Maybe give it 2 or 3 different methods. And you can access them all the same way. So just like we have here, if you add more methods, you could access them the same way as we've done here. That's it for this tutorial. There's quite a bit more to be said about this, and I'm going to show you, for example, better ways of setting these data members. I'm going to look at that shortly. But until next time, happy coding.